are you going to help me save the world? That's something, something Jesus asks in the Course. Here we go. We're on lesson 60. This is a review lesson. There's five lessons that are reviewed each time. This is the end of the first review in the workbook. And here we go. These ideas are for today's review. Number 1, which is lesson 46. God is the love in which I forgive. God is the love in which I forgive. God does not forgive because he has never condemned. The blameless cannot blame, and those who have accepted their innocence see nothing to forgive. Yet forgiveness is the means by which I will recognize my innocence. It is the reflection of God's love on earth. It will bring me near enough to heaven that the love of God can reach down to me and raise me up to him. Number 2, lesson 47. God is the strength in which I trust. God is the strength in which I trust. It is not my own strength through which I forgive. It is through the strength of God in me, which I am remembering as I forgive. As I begin to see, I recognize his reflection on earth. I forgive all things because I feel the stirring of his strength in me. And I begin to remember the love I chose to forget, but which has not forgotten me. Number 3, which is lesson 48. There is nothing to fear. There is nothing to fear. How safe the world will look to me when I can see it. It will not look anything like what I imagine I see now. Everyone and everything I see will lean toward me to bless me. I will recognize in everyone my dearest friend. What could there be to fear in a world that I have forgiven and that has forgiven me? Number 4, lesson 49. God's voice speaks to me all through the day. God's voice speaks to me all through the day. There is not a moment in which God's voice ceases to call on my forgiveness to save me. There is not a moment in which his voice fails to direct my thoughts, guide my actions, and lead my feet. I am walking steadily on toward truth. There is nowhere else I can go because God's voice is the only voice and the only guide that has been given to his Son. Number 5, lesson 50. I am sustained by the love of God. I am sustained by the love of God. As I listen to God's voice, I am sustained by his love. As I open my eyes, his love lights up the world for me to see. As I forgive, his love reminds me that his Son is sinless. And as I look upon the world with the vision he has given me, I remember that I am his son. All right, so this is lesson 60. We're going to go through each one of these now. Talk a little bit about each. On the surface, it all sounds good, right? It makes sense. But this is not, you could read it on its face value, but there's deeper things happening. And that's what I think we need to maybe address a little bit here. So number 1, lesson 46, God is the love in which I forgive. God does not forgive because he has never condemned. This is maybe the most important line. This is the atonement principle of the Course. What is the atonement principle? The atonement principle is God does not need atonement. God does not need a sacrifice. Why? Because God has never condemned anyone. God is just love. God is pure love, absolute love, love beyond anything we can possibly imagine. In that love, there's no need for forgiveness because everything is included in that love. And that love is still here right now in this very moment, even though it might not look that way. And why does it not look that way? Because God is not condemned, but we have condemned, right? We have condemned ourselves. We have condemned others. And because we have because we have done that, there seems to be some darkness. There seems to be some clouds. That darkness and the clouds, though, are not really substantial. Nothing really can hide the light of love that is God's love, right? Maybe for a moment it could seem to, but what is time, right? Time is nothing. Only those who have gone beyond time can understand that and see the relativity of time. But anyway, God does not forgive because he is never condemned. The blameless cannot blame, and those who have accepted their innocence see nothing to forgive. Yet forgiveness is the means by which I will recognize my innocence. So the thing is I do not think I'm blameless, and I do not think I'm innocent. And because I do not fully accept that yet, and because I am not resting in the peace of God, in the love of God, which is beyond all forgiveness, beyond all condemnation, beyond all blame, beyond all judgment, because I'm not there, I need to practice forgiveness, right? Forgiveness holds the key to what I'm seeking. Because forgiveness, as Jesus says, is the one illusion to save us from all other illusions. It is the key that will open up the door to our true self, which is not any different than God, which is not any different than love. It is the reflection of God's love on earth. So forgiveness is the means by which I will recognize my innocence. It is the reflection of God's love on earth. It's not God's love. Forgiveness is not God's love. It's a reflection of God's love. And that doesn't mean it's nothing to sneeze at, right? Forgiveness is, forgiveness in this world is big, right? But it's not the end, because it's not the love of God. It's the way to the love of God. It's a reflection of the love of God. Sometimes Jesus says the echo. It's an echo of the love of God. It will bring me near enough to heaven that the love of God can reach down to me and raise me up to him. So it will align my perception with right perception. It will align my perception with the vision of Christ, the vision of love, the vision of the Holy Spirit. And that vision is as loving as you can get in this world, right? As loving and forgiving as you can get in this world. And in preparing the way like that, you fulfill the conditions necessary to return back to the love of God, right? So you have to pave the way, so to speak. You have to prepare the way. Nothing can really prepare the way, but you have to have that little willingness. You know what Jesus says, have that little willingness that will open you to your true self. As long as you remain closed and blocked and unwilling to listen to reason and to reasonableness, you will suffer, and that's your choice, right? You are choosing that, but you can unchoose that, and this is what this is for. This whole course. Okay, so number 247. God is the strength in which I trust. God is the strength in which I trust. It is not my own strength through which I forgive. It is through the strength of God in me, which I am remembering as I forgive. As I begin to see, I recognize his reflection on earth. I forgive all things because I feel the stirring of his strength in me. And I begin to remember the love I chose to forget, but which has not forgotten me. I chose to forget the love of God. I chose that. And again, now I can unchoose it. Because I chose to basically hide from the love of God or throw away the love of God or attack the love of God. And Jesus says this world was made as an attack on God. And we made God an unloving father. Because I did that, I need help. Right? And the forgiveness, I'm just remembering what it is. It's not my own strength, it's the strength of God. I remember that is still there within myself. It's in my heart. And as I remember that forgiveness, and as I offer that forgiveness to others, I see that I am forgiven. And that is the reflection of the love of God on earth. God has never forgotten any of us. Love has never... Gary Renard had that book, right? He has that book called Love Has Forgotten No One. It's a beautiful title. Love has forgotten no one. And this is what this is saying. God, as love, has not forgotten us. It's still here. Bhagavan Das has this great book. Ram Dass had a book called Be Here Now that was a very famous, and still is to this day. If you've never read Be Here Now, it's worth checking out that book. That book was a very big catalyst for many people in the early 70s. Basically, it was a book for the flower children to get away from drugs and move toward yoga and, let's say, more natural spiritual paths. Now, I personally have nothing against what we call today plant medicine, which some people still call drugs. But I think plant medicine has its place, for sure. But what I wanted to mention is that, so Ram Dass had this book called Be Here Now, and then Bhagavan Das wrote a book called, Bhagavan Das was the one that introduced Ram Dass to Neem Karoli Baba in the 60s. And Neem Karoli Baba basically... It gave Ram Dass his name. His name was Dr. Richard Alpert. He worked with Timothy Leary at Harvard, and then he and Timothy Leary got kicked out of Harvard, forced to resign from Harvard, and then Dr. Alpert went to India, seeking for a guru or someone or a yogi who could tell him about LSD or explain how to get to the same state as LSD without using drugs. And he finally, Bhagavan Das took him to meet Neem Karoli Baba. I'm not going to tell the whole story, but so what happened, Bhagavan Das wrote a book called It's Here Now, Are You? Right? That was a long way of getting to this point, which is, be here now, it's here now, are you? The love of God is still here. It's right here. It's right under our noses. Our gnosis, right? It's right under our noses. It's hidden in plain sight. It's always here. It's only for us to accept it, right? And to stop resisting it and stop denying it. But instead to deny the denial of truth. This is what Jesus says about, all we need to do is deny the denial of truth, which is what the ego symbolizes. The ego symbolizes the denial of truth. And if we want to experience the love of God, the love and the peace of God and the joy of God, then all we need to do is deny the denial of truth. Moving on. There is nothing to fear. How safe the world will look when I can see it. It will not look anything like what I imagine I see now. Everyone and everything I see will lean toward me to bless me. I will recognize in everyone my dearest friend. What could there be to fear in a world that I have forgiven and that has forgiven me? I think you can feel this, when you're in love, you can feel this, right? It's a rare thing to be in love in this world. Fortunate are those who have been in love, have felt that, even for a day or even for an hour, but maybe longer, maybe weeks, months, years even. Wow, that's beautiful. When you're in that state, there's no fear. There's only joy. And what Jesus is talking about here is you're getting to the real world. You're getting to the world. It's the same world, right? But it's purified of the ego. If the ego's out of the picture, what do you see? You see a world. You're living in wonder. You're living in awe and gratitude and wonder, and you are fully present, and you can share the joyful, loving presence with everyone. And you see that everyone is wanting to do that too. Not everyone is able to at any given moment, but everyone really wants that. What is in the way? Fear, right? It's only fear. What is fear? Fear is false evidence appearing real. Right? Face everything and run, or face everything and rise. Fear, that's the acronym, right? Fear is just is based in the tiny mad idea of separation. Separation is impossible. Separation is non-existent, just like the ego does not exist. It's nothing. But we think it's something, and because we think it's something, we have fear. Because why do we fear? Because we feel that there's self and other. There's me and there's something else, and that something else is going to get me. That something else is in it, has it in for me. Right? I don't see that as something else as, oh yeah, that something else just wants love, just like me. Who goes around, with that thought in mind? But if you did go around with that thought in mind, that would transform your consciousness. That everyone really just wants love. Everyone is looking for love. Everyone is looking for their true self again. I'm not just saying this myself. This is what Jesus says in the Course, right? Everyone is looking for what they think that they've lost, but they never lost it. It's still there. But it seems like it's lost, It's the clouds of illusion, clouds of delusion that are in the way. But again, those clouds are not substantial. Number 4, God's voice speaks to me all through the day. And we had this one, and we had an interesting talk about this one. Let's read it. There's not a moment in which God's voice ceases to call on my forgiveness and to save me. There's not a moment in which his voice fails to direct my thoughts, guide my actions, and lead my feet. I am walking steadily on toward truth. There is nowhere else I can go because God's voice is the only voice and the only guide that has been given to his Son. So what is God's voice? I'm noticing here that God's voice is used 3 times. Right? That's probably not a mistake either. It's 3 times that God's voice is mentioned here. Good things come in 3s. So what is God's voice? God's voice is the Holy Spirit. But what is the Holy Spirit? Why does God need a voice? Why not just say God speaks directly to me? Why does God need a mouthpiece? Right? It's partly because of this idea that God, being God does not know about the separation. Right? God cannot meet us in the separated state because God does not know of the separation. This is a very big and very important idea, and but you could still do the Course without understanding this, but it helps, I think, to get a grasp on this, that God does not know of the separated state of his Son. Even though the Course sometimes makes it sound like God does know, On some level, God must know, right? Because we know. And we really are God. So in that sense, God does know. But in another sense, in an ultimate sense, God does not know because there is no separation. Separation is an illusion. So how could God know? You see how this is? If there is no separation, then God does not know of suffering. God does not know of forgiveness. God does not know of blame and condemnation and judgment. These are all illusions, right? They have no reality. They only have reality within the illusion, and that's where we are, right? We're within the illusion right now. We're in the dream. In the dream, we need a voice that speaks for God. That would be the Holy Spirit. That is, but that is symbolic too. I think some people say that they hear a voice, right? They actually that the voice of the Holy Spirit or Jesus is constantly talking to them all through the day, and that's wonderful if that's what you are experiencing. No, it does not have to be a voice though per se. Did Helen hear a voice? She was receiving inner dictation, but it was not a voice in the pure sense of the term. And you can listen to Helen talk about that if you're interested. There's an audio of her talking about it online. But it doesn't have to be a voice per se. What it is the call to love, right? The call to love is always calling you, right? You're always being called in every moment, in every single moment. And that call to love is the strongest call in the universe. Much, much stronger than the ego, even though we tend to listen more to the ego than anything else. But the pull of love for love is really the greatest magnet in the whole world, right? And that's why we try as we might, as far as we may roam, we will always find our way home, right? We may roam very, very very far. We may roam in the wilderness of Rome, very, very far, but we will always find our way back. And that call of love to love is always there. It does not have to be a voice per se. So God's voice speaks to me all through the day. There's not a moment in which his voice fails to direct my thoughts, guide my actions, and lead my feet. Now, again, this is love that is, now we may not be experiencing that, but we can experience that more and more as we accept that love is all that we really want. But that still does not mean that the Holy Spirit is actually going to speak to us. It means that the Holy Spirit will guide us, but that does not have to be with words. So the reason I say this is because I think what might happen is people think that they need to hear a voice, like Helen heard. Helen didn't hear a voice, but you might think like you need to receive inner dictation. But I don't think that that's necessarily true. And some will say differently, but I think this is more symbolic and not to be taken strictly literally. Now, when Jesus said to Helen, I will clearly dictate to you what you need to do, that might have been more directly for Helen. Now, for us, the dictation does not have to happen. First of all, Jesus is not a dictator. The Holy Spirit is not a dictator. They can give their suggestions, but everything is open to you, right? Right. The free will. let's read the introduction, right? I'm gonna butcher it if I try to do it myself. Let me read the introduction, right? Here we go. I'm trying to get it quickly. I'm probably not gonna get it quickly. All right. This is A Course in Miracles. This is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. So you can elect what you want to take at a given time. That means it's up to you, right? It's your choice. Now, the dictation of love is always there, right? I think that's really what I'm trying to get at, is that love is ever present. Love is the only reality. In that sense, you don't necessarily need a voice. What you need to do, if anything, is to just accept love. And in accepting love and letting love direct your life, you could say spirit if you want, direct your life, everything will fall into place. And it may not be that you're getting a conscious dictation, but you will be guided. Let's put it that way. You will be guided. And it might be that if you are hearing a voice or hearing dictation, maybe at some point that dictation and that voice will fall away. And you won't need it anymore, right? Maybe I don't want to put anyone down by saying this, and this is not a put down. This is just to say that it's like step by step, you let go of, it's like that saying, when you get the message, hang up the phone, right? You don't need the phone anymore. When you take the boat across the river, you don't need the boat anymore. When you learn to live in love, you do not need the course anymore, right? You don't need the words. You don't need any help from the audience because you are everything, right? All right. Next one. Number 5, lesson 50. I am sustained by the love of God. I am sustained by the love of God. As I listen to God's voice, I am sustained by his love. As I open my eyes, his love lights up the world for me to see. As I forgive, his love reminds me that his Son is sinless. And as I look upon the world with the vision he has given me, I remember that I am his son. As I forgive, his love reminds me that his Son is sinless, right? Keep in mind, the other thing to note here is that this is like, the workbook is like training wheels. It's a beginning and not an end. It's like these are lessons for us who are not in a place of complete non-judgment and not living in love completely. This is for us who still feel some separation and still judge and still blame and still feel guilty and still feel sinful and still feel fearful. So this is what this is for. That's what the whole course is for. If you were in that place where you didn't feel those things, you wouldn't need the course, and you probably wouldn't need this world. If you understand that this world is a school, right? That this world, the way the Holy Spirit looks at it is that this world is a school, and the school is to learn the lessons of love through forgiveness, right? And to go back to love again. And that's the highest school, That's way beyond the PhD, which is piled higher and deeper anyway. But anyway, BS is what you get, undergraduate, then an MS. BS is BS, MS is more of the same, and PhD is piled higher and deeper. I heard that the other night from Jeffrey Armstrong. but that's something that's been out there for a while. Anyway, this is the only thing that's not bullshit, right? Everything else is bullshit. This is freeing you of all bullshit. All right, lesson 61 is next. We've done the review, and we're moving on. And I'm gonna do a little video right now talking about this, reading from this book. I'm gonna read, yesterday I read some Emily Dickinson quotes, and now I'm gonna read some Thoreau. No, not Thoreau, Emerson, Ralph Waldo. See you there if you want to tune in. Thank you so much.